Hello, welcome to another episode of Millennial Minute. I'm your host, Julia Sun. Sadly, school shootings are a major problem in this country. And one of the proposed solutions is to have teachers carry guns to protect everybody. That's today's hot button debate. Is this a good idea? You already heard from our guest, Democratic strategist Nicole Brener Schmitz, and joining her is Young Voices contributor Matthew Larosiere. Welcome to you both. Look, we're not going to solve the Second Amendment problem on this show. That's why I would just like to focus on the schools. This topic is rather emotional. I'll start with you, Nicole. If not this, then what else in the short term? Because people want quick fixes. This is such an important issue. People want to see result right away. What can we do?
Well, I do think Congress can move forward in passing H.R. 8, which is a common sense background check. There's no reason that dangerous people should be able to get their hands on this deadly weapon. This is a bill that is supported by the majority of Americans and would address who can purchase a firearm.
Okay. And Matt, I see your point is, okay, it's okay you don't want to carry a gun, but you should ultimately have a choice in that. For all the teachers out there, say if they don't want to participate in a mandatory training, firearm training, what do you do about that if they don't want to be in the position to carry guns?
I view the Second Amendment the same way I view the First. I think that it is just as much your right not to take up arms as it is your right to do so. Just as it is your right not to speak, should be your right to speak. I would be generally against any program that compelled Americans to take arms in any sense when they did not want to.
Then follow up on that, because you said, oh, well, carrying a weapon on a school campus is no different than carrying them in a mall or any other public spaces. Then why at, conventions like RNC conventions, you cannot have a firearm in there with you?
There's not a rational reason, and I think I would agree that we should eliminate these exceptions, aside from, of course, private property, right? People who own the property should be able to control and trespass whoever they want. But when you get the government involved and tell people, look, the core thing that is happening here, when you make these, and you hear it all the time from people on my side about the gun-free zones, making it a soft target, whatever. I'm not going to harp on that too much. The core thing that you have to understand here is that when you tell somebody you cannot carry a weapon here, you are taking away from them the ability to control the autonomy of their body against unlawful actors. There's no way you can get around that. And that's a right that has been recognized since long before our society even exists. In fact, most European legal scholars agreed that there was one thing you couldn't take away from a person, and that was their ability to take up arms in defense of themselves. I don't know how we got to the point where we got today, where we're even having this discussion on whether you should be able to, stay alive in X place or Y place. I do think it's universally preposterous.
Okay. Well, one of the points of contention that I hear a lot is some people say, well, I'm not sure if having a gun or guns in that situation would escalate the tension or de-escalate it. Nicole, what do you think? Which way do you think it'll go?
I think, unfortunately, teachers are not fully trained for this. This is not what their career path was. Most of them don't have the desire to become that way. And the reality is we have study after study that shows unless you've gone through some very extensive training, we're talking about people who belong in something like the Marines, where there's real training about combat, it would escalate it. There would be a natural human reaction that is panic and running. We would see negligent unfortunate accidents from the gun accidentally going off when there's not even a moment of crisis. There'd be huge safe storage issues going on in these schools. This is just not the solution to arm the schools further.
Matt, escalation or de-escalation in your view?
I would love to see any evidence you have that would lead to that conclusion, because as far as I'm aware, and I've looked into this quite deeply, it doesn't exist. In fact, in the vast majority of defensive gun uses in this country, which number somewhere between 400,000 and 3 million times per year, there is no force actually used. And the brandishing of the weapon, or et cetera, the mere presence of the weapon usually serves to de-escalate the situation and often save lives and protect property. As well. So if you do have that evidence, I'd love to see it, but frankly, I do not believe that it exists.
Okay, Nicole, then what's your evidence?
So there are some studies that are cited. Certainly, the teacher unions have provided this, and there are entire websites dedicated to it. And I wish I knew it off the top of my head, but I'm more than happy to give it to you so that you can put it on the screen or provide the viewers with it.
Okay. And then final question before I let both of you go. We're talking about K to 12. How do you think having gun presence affect children's development and their safety and well-being in the long run? I'll start with you, Nicole.
Well, I just don't think that school is a place where this should be the focus. I'm a little bit to Matt's point. The school shootings get a ton of coverage, but they're still, and they're commonplace in a way in America that's untrue in other countries, but it's still not the majority of gun violence in this country. So the school is not a place where kids need to be worried or aware or hyper vigilant about firearms. And that it just distracts and is going to take away from their feeling of safety and their ability to concentrate and learn on the subjects at hand.
Same question for you, Matt. How do you think that'll affect school children, and what else can we provide them with in school?
So in one of the reactions that seems people have seemed to agree with has been like providing school resource officers and increasing police at school. And I think that has been the worst thing. And actually, a lot to your point, that what we have seen is dramatically increasing the school to prison pipeline, where juvenile indiscretion winds up creating a criminal history, where the presence of police officers cause students to have extreme anxiety and, like you said, not be focusing on their studies. I think the last thing we should do is make our schools feel more like prisons, and we've done a pretty darn good job of making them feel that way. I know, when I was in school, it was kind of at the beginning of this type of stuff. It really did feel like a prison. There were police officers all over the place, watching every corner. It was not a good place, a good feeling. And I think if COVID has taught us anything, it's hell, why don't we just not send them to school like that? Why don't we switch to distance learning as a primary source? I think that might be more efficient. And certainly we know that keeping people away from each other is a great way to solve violence. However, I don't think that the concealed carry by a person who lawfully chooses to do so would have any negative impact on a student, because if you are responsibly and concealedly carrying your firearm, no one's going to notice. There's not going to be anything to talk about.
Okay. This is a very challenging topic, probably for our viewers and myself too, but I'm so glad that both of you are here to share your views. Thank you.
Been a pleasure.
And thank you for watching Millennial Minute. I'm Julia Sun. I'll see you back here next time.